Dan Bilzerian or like whoever, like these guys like Lunatic Living that show themselves with like 100 girls on Instagram and like on yachts and stuff.
Yeah.
They're never gonna like show you the picture of them like crying at 3 a.m. because they're like questioning their life.
So in this episode, I'm speaking with Jon Anthony. He's the guy behind masculinedevelopment.com, a really cool website that you should check out. We're gonna talk about the idea of super stimuli and how those things hook you in by giving you excessive amount of pleasure and rewarding your dopamine circuits with so much stimulation that you become lazy and complacent to do anything with your life. And yes, I'm talking about fapping to porn, excessive amount of TV, internet, social media, you name it, video games, movies, Netflix. All those things basically are designed to stimulate you for unlimited amount of time. So if you don't take control, those things will simply draw you in and spew you out, because as you've noticed, there's no end to YouTube, there's no end to Netflix, there's no end to amount of porn you can watch. And if you let it control you, you will simply become a consumer. A consumer, you're gonna be fat, you're gonna be unmotivated. So the purpose of this podcast is for you to gain awareness over those things. Guys who are deeply into self-development, they realized long ago that those things, even though they feel good, are not necessarily something that serves them in the long term. They would rather feel less good and use that hunger to better themselves and better their lives and feel peace and tranquility instead of the spiky amounts of pleasure. So, without further ado, this is Jon Anthony from Masculine Development. Enjoy.
I know that when I first started doing NoFap, like a long time ago, I used to be really into video games, and I still play every now and then, but I remember very distinctly when I first got into NoFap and my dopamine receptors started to reset themselves. What I started to notice is like I just didn't want to play video games anymore. Like they weren't as rewarding. What was going on is like, you know, as I was sitting there playing these games, my brain, because the dopamine receptors had been reset to normal, they were like what, like this isn't real. Why don't you go like get money or actual girls, you know? Mm-hmm. And so I think that's one major super stimuli that every guy fucking falls under is porn, because it's so readily accessible. It's everywhere, and it's you know, the FBI, for example, they track statistics on like, you know, obviously like child porn and like really messed up stuff like that. And I remember reading that the FBI has found something like, it's like every year for the past like 10 years, like the rates of like child pornography, snuff porn, like stuff like that, really fucked up stuff, it's like doubling every year. Because what happens is when you look at porn, you know, it's a hit. It's like a fix of dopamine, basically, a super stimuli fix of dopamine. What happens is you get your fix, and then you start needing more and more hardcore stuff to get off, you know. And so you start off with vanilla porn, and then you move into the more fucked up stuff slowly but surely. And then before you know it, you're in this world where, you know, 2 years ago, if you asked yourself, would I be doing this? You know, you would say no way. But because that super stimuli works so insidiously and so slowly, you know, it fucks you up. And yeah, it's not just porn either too. It's junk food, porn, social media, and even the internet. Because I mean, you know, there's a good book called The Attention Economy, and the whole idea is that everyone's fighting for your attention. You know, like everyone's fighting for your attention in different ways, and that's why you see all this clickbait and all this, you know, these pop-ups and pings and notifications, is because everyone wants your attention to sell you something. Everyone's trying to market you something, and you have to guard yourself, you know, in the modern age. And I think what we're seeing too is like, as more and more people become unconscious and kind of slowly just like go down into that super stimuli gratification mode, a small percentage of people, but a growing number of people are doing the opposite, and they're waking up and they're like, holy shit, like we can't keep doing this. And so I think what we're going to start to see is as more and more people descend into technological hedonism, more people are going to like go the primal sort of caveman route. And there's this like differing bird, like this
the chasm is growing. Yeah,
exactly, the chasm is like growing. And so now I think what's going to happen is like the people that can actually stay alert and present, and that can like, you know, have an attention span of longer than 7 seconds, that's going to be like the new elite. Like it's not going to be people who have money anymore. It's going to be the people that have awareness and presence that are going to become the elite, and that are going to end up actually, funny enough, killing it at life, you know? Because I mean, the people that are basically the goldfish that have 4-second attention spans, they're just like money. They're cash cows. Marketers just like, they just send them shit and they buy it, and they're not thinking for themselves. And so there's this like new group of people, you know, like the listeners of this podcast, you and I, that are like waking up. And I think that in, you know, the next 10, 20 years, we're going to become like, it's going to be like a superpower, like being able to separate yourself from the super stimuli machine. It's a fucking superpower.
Yeah. Oh man, that's definitely true. So yeah, that's the double-edged sword of the progress that's happening. And if you can, that's the thing, right? It presents with tremendous opportunity to rise above it. And if you're capable of doing this, which is not hard, it's like just implement a bunch of practices in your life and gain awareness by listening to the podcast like this, by going to your website, masculinedevelopment.com, Jon Anthony, and grow your awareness, and then you're not going to be a victim of the circumstances, and you are actually going to be able to tame that animal and use it to your advantage, because the thing that has the propensity to destroy your life, which again is in your pocket, which is the compulsive usage of porn. And I remember in my like university days, I always had some kind of inkling that this is not how things supposed to be. But it was also I didn't have the awareness or knowledge of how it actually fucks me up. So, you know, I would like be in university, just like, oh, I'm so kind of bored. I'm just gonna like look up some porn.
Yeah.
And then you do all sorts of weird shit, like you go to the toilet in the university to jerk off, and you can.
And it becomes common, like everyone fucking does it too.
And then you get out of the bathroom and you're like, oh, why did I do that? I feel so tired now, and like I don't really want to be here. But you never really make the connection properly between the fact that the thing that you did in the bathroom is what made your mood worse.
Yeah,
so,
and what's so insidious too is that it like, you think that porn only makes you tired for like the next, 10 minutes and then you're good. But it actually lasts for like weeks and weeks and weeks. And if you keep doing it, it rewires your dopamine receptors to literally not make you as motivated. Like dopamine is the motivation neurotransmitter in your brain. And when you constantly jerk off to porn, what you're telling your evolutionary brain is things are good. There's no need to change anything. I'm fucking a harem of 50 different gorgeous fucking women. And in reality, your life sucks, but like you never get the motivation to change it because you're literally tricking your brain into thinking you're like some fucking caveman alpha stud who's like got billions of dollars and like killing it at life, So it traps you. It fucking traps you.
Yeah. That's the thing, right? So this is a lie. In reality, like so one cool way of going about it is that you can literally, if you're fapping and you can imagine yourself doing this, like the third kind of person, like the third person, game, when you like the camera is like floating over the head of the character, and you're fapping off to porn, and you kind of look at yourself and see it for what it is, which is basically you use your hand, pretend it's a vagina, and then you'll use your computer and looking at pixels, pretend those pixels are real women. and then you squirt your jizz into a tissue, and your brain is like, yay, we impregnated all those girls. Well, I guess you did a good job. now you can rest. And then you do this every day because you try to escape your problems. Because once like, part of you always knows this is weird, like you're maybe like higher level, cognitive, like the prefrontal cortex kind of realizes this is not the right thing to do. But since you lack awareness, it seems like a great solution. It's an energy management system because it helps you sleep, can help you wake up as well in the morning. It also is the solution to all your problems, because let's say you come back from work, your boss made you feel like your boss basically shouted at you in front of everyone, and you're like, shit, man, I'm pathetic. I'm not enough. And then you go home and you're like, hey, what is this saying? Oh yeah, I'm just gonna watch some porn. It's gonna make me feel great. And then for this like 10, 15 minutes, you're this fucking dude just banging all those chicks, and they're like, oh, want your dick, and they're like, doing all those things that basically trick you into thinking that your life situation is better. But it's funny. Yeah. It's funny when like you feel great, and then it's followed by this massive drop where the reality hits you like a ton of bricks when you're like, shit. Yeah,
and it's literally, it's like, I think that's why NoFap is so effective. Like, you hear these stories of guys that do NoFap. Like that's one of the things I talk about in my ebook, 7 strategies to develop your masculinity, is like, do NoFap. Like, that's one of the critical 7 things you should be doing to get your shit in order. And I think the reason why it works so well is because, like, in your example, like, say you just got yelled by your boss because you fucked something up, right? Well, if you fap, then problem solved, you feel good, and you don't confront reality. But if you don't fap, you have to sit there and think to yourself, okay, I fucked it up. What can I do differently this time? How can I improve so that I don't fuck it up again? And it forces you to confront reality. Like when you, for example, like the moments that you fap, what you'll find is that it's never because you're genuinely horny and you want to fuck. It is sometimes, to be fair, but most of the time it's because you're like feeling lonely, you're feeling depressed, like you're feeling angry, like there's an emotion, an underlying emotion that's trying to tell you that something's wrong with your life. And instead of listening to it, you just bury it and say, no, I'm just gonna go trick my brain into thinking that I'm fucking up a whole bunch of girls, And people do the same thing with junk food too. The other super stimuli. Yeah, exactly. Okay? It's like a form of escape. It's like, when does like the fatty eat food? It's when they feel like depressed. And so instead of fixing the underlying problem, which is maybe, they should get their life in order, they're just like, oh, I'm just going to have another Twinkie, another Subway sandwich, another this or another that. And, it's insane. It's all just escapism, dude. It's like not as dangerous as heroin, right? Because it's kind of funny, because in some ways, like, porn and junk food and social media are even worse than heroin. Because at least with heroin, it's like,
hard to get
it'll fuck your life up. Like, you see within a year, like, I'm living on the streets and sucking dick for heroin, So you're like, oh shit, I should probably change something. It's fucked up. But with porn, that never happens. It's just enough to get you hooked and to get you on that slow downward descent. But it's not enough a lot of times to ever like get you to really be like, wow, I'm fucking up. Like, I need to quit this, So in many ways, it's more insidious and more dangerous than like fucking heroin or fucking meth or something,
No, yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. And then when you're trying to quit, and I mean, I've been on and off NoFap for years and years, and I tried all sorts of different things, but basically just staying off of it is the best solution, I think, for me, at least personally speaking. No masturbation, no porn. And it's what's insidious about it is that you feel that, like, let's say one jerk off to porn is, well, it's fine. It's not going to ruin your life. It's just like one time. So, but it's not just one time, right? Because like this one time makes another time much more likely, because then you get the taste of the addiction that you're trying to fight. And then what else? That's one. And then secondly, you kind of failed yourself as well. Like you failed with discipline. You made a commitment that you're not going to do it, and you did. And then
so then your self-esteem erodes because you lie to yourself.
Yeah. And then imagine that you had a friend, right? I think like one of the reasons why it's so hard sometimes to like actually quit it, and in the moment when you're like horny and you have this internal battle in your mind, like a devil and angel, it's like, hey, it's okay, just one time. You're gonna start tomorrow. Tomorrow is the fresh day, you know, like the beginning of the month, the first of the month. It's like gonna be super clean, you know. And you're like, oh yeah, I guess that makes sense. And and on the other side, there's also like, well, it's just porn. Like everyone's doing it. Like it can't be that bad, right? And you have all those rationalizations, and then you eventually end up watching porn and fapping, and all those rationalizations, they don't seem so plausible after you're done. You're like, fuck. Yeah. What the fuck did they do?
There's always that feeling after you're done, you're like, what the fuck was I thinking? God damn it. I was just like, damn it. It's always that feeling. It's like the high of jerking off, and then afterwards you're like, fuck. Like even sometimes too, like back when I used to like struggle with quitting, because I've been done for a while. But when I used to struggle with quitting, sometimes even as I was coming, I was like, God damn it, like this isn't worth the fucking loss I'm getting. Like as I was coming, I would realize like, shit, I shouldn't have fucking done this. But it's so sneaky, because like those things that the devil of you says, it's like they're actually kind of right. Like just doing it once won't actually fuck your life up.
Yeah.
But it's never just fucking once. It's always you jerk off, and then you're like, oh, like the next day you're like, oh, like I might as well just do it again. One more time won't hurt, because I'll start tomorrow. And it's you keep coming up with these fucking excuses. And it's just you need to cut it out. And so one thing I'll do, and I don't recommend this for guys that are first starting, because it's gonna fuck you up most likely before you develop that discipline. The one thing that I'll do is I use porn strategically. So if I'm like,
that's the weirdest thing,
man. Don't want to,
unbelievable. But yeah, say how
if I need to go to the gym and I'm like just I'm tired, whatever it is, I want to do something. Sometimes I'll look at just one video, just one little hit of super stimuli. So that, and then I'll see it. I'm like, fuck.
It's like
now I remember what I'm fighting for, what I'm trying to grow for. And so it'll like motivate me, but then that's it. I cut it off after that, after just one video. And, that works for me to, as a self-motivating thing. But if you can't handle it, which most guys can't, then I do not recommend you try it. Most guys, you need to just quit for 90 days. And even then, even though I use the porn to self-motivate sometimes, I never fucking jerk off. Never, ever, 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 ever. The only time I ever come is when I'm with a girl, ever. Because your body knows the difference, your brain knows the difference, and it's going to have a different effect on you. And it's also fucking different too, because you're jerking off versus being in an actual, intimate relationship with someone is obviously way fucking different. And it's a much more productive pursuit to actually try and get a girl than it is to just jerk off,
Yeah, exactly. So that is so interesting. I've never heard anyone doing that, and I feel like I would not be able to do it for sure, because it's just like a matter of time before I start jerking off and just have like 5 tabs open and shit.
Like multi-screen monitors, like 3 monitors, like different thing on each screen.
Yeah. So by the way, I had to change the setting because my laptop is running low on battery. And there's not any socket around where I was. So yeah.
Cool.
Okay, so just to sum up about the porn stuff. So just the one time, you're like, oh, it's fine. And I think it's part of it is that our brains are not really evolved to perceive an abstract enemy inside of you. And it's more like a notion and understanding of how it's fucking you up. It's not like a physical thing that you can point to. And if you had a friend that was always like stealing your motivation for life, making you feel desperate and miserable, fucking up your skills with girls, and giving you like erectile dysfunction, like you wouldn't be like, oh, it's okay, I'm just gonna meet this friend once, it's fine. You would be like, no, fuck off. But obviously the difference here is that this friend gives you like intense pleasure as well, for like 10 minutes. So that's the only difference in that analogy. But basically, imagine yourself like personify that monster. And also like in all sorts of different religious spiritual traditions, they they didn't have this sciencey understanding of reality, so they would always see all sorts of different demons and angels everywhere. So when there was a temptation, like in your mind, where all those rationalizations were happening in your brain and your mind, now you think like, it's okay, it's porn, it's like my good old friend, my good buddy, he's always there for me when life is rough. Like you would actually hear like a demon or a devil talking to you, not you convincing yourself. And that could be like
they're onto something though. They're onto something with that, because that like you said, we have a hard time like perceiving an abstract enemy. But when you can see like, okay, like this is a devil, like this is a demon with horns and it's like red and angry, like when you can like personify it and make it concrete, it's so much easier to recognize that shit, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the devil is never gonna come as this scary devil-looking beast, right? It's always gonna come in the form of pleasure and promises of joy and satisfaction and shit like that. So that's one way to look at it. I'm not saying to be dogmatic about it, but it's definitely a psychological a framework that you can use to your advantage. And I feel like there's going to be a different neurological response from your mind if you can actually see this as an actual entity. So but let's come back to this whole idea of super stimuli. And we also obviously have McDonald's and all sorts of different junk food. Everyone knows it's not good for you. Like, this is not a secret. It's not like, by the way, McDonald's is actually not that healthy. I just want to tell you. Oh, like to a fat person, you're gonna say, by the way, did you know that McDonald's is not healthy? They're not gonna be like, what? Oh my God, that's why I'm fat.
So that's why I'm fat.
Oh shit. Right? It's one of those things. Same with porn. In a lot of cases, maybe people do know about it, but the thing is that it affects your limbic system, and the pleasure response is so strong that you can rationalize everything. Like you know, like your cortex is the part of your brain that is like thinking, and then you can use this part of your brain. If it's hijacked by the limbic system, then it can just make like the devil's advocate. It can just make all sorts of rationalizations that sound totally plausible in the favor of doing something that's immediately gratifying. So we got So how do you go around that, right? It's that's the thing. If you've been basically using this super stimuli as a way of as a coping mechanism for all those years, and there's no like one simple answer to that. It's probably a pretty multifaceted thing.
I think what you can do is if you try to do things that require discipline every day, that can build up that prefrontal cortex. So when your limbic system does try to override it, you have the strength to say, no, fuck you. And you put it in its place, right? So like cold showers are really good.
Cold showers. Yeah.
I take cold showers every day pretty much. So there's some evidence that you don't take a cold shower right after the gym. Take it at least an hour after the gym. So what I'll do is I go to the gym, which in and of itself is a good way to build discipline. So go to the gym, then do the sauna right afterwards. So you sweat out all the toxins, feel good, and that improves recovery as well because it releases heat shock proteins in your body. And then usually a couple hours later, then I'll just go home and take a cold shower at home. And that builds discipline too, right? Another thing is meditating. That builds discipline, and it builds that ability to stay present. So when you have your primal desires telling you like, hey, look at porn, hey, eat this junk food, hey, like check social media 100 times a day. When you meditate, you build that awareness where you're like, oh, that's just a desire, and you separate yourself from it so it doesn't seem as overwhelming and immediate as it usually does. Yeah. So finding ways to put like little things in your life each day is like really, really important, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So actually I mentioned that in this article that what we basically are becoming, we are becoming the mindless stimulus response, like mindless stimulus response reactive. And that's what's basically this mode of being is what's causing this to happen in the first place. So you can just walk around and now you know about this and like you're angry that all those things are there. But at the end of the day, it's your responsibility to put different sort of measures in place to keep yourself in check. And the way to go about it is to simply build up that prefrontal cortex, that power, and the willpower sort of center, where your choices are going to be much more aligned with longer term things that are benefiting you. So meditation, cold showers, doing things that are uncomfortable, and then going to the gym, all those things that are not easy, and there's a bit of a resistance to it. But all the things I find is to be a very good framework where you can literally divide a lot of things in life to things that give you immediate pleasure, but pain after, and it's like a pleasure debt that you accumulate, and then you have to pay after, and things that give you pain first and pleasure after.
I like that idea of the pleasure debt, because like when you do jerk off or like eat junk food, like you do have like it's like an unnatural pleasure, right? Mm-hmm. So like whenever you like artificially do something that fucks your body up, but it feels good at first, there's always like a debt to be paid later. So with porn, karma, it's right? It's like karma. The debt is like lack of motivation. With junk food, the debt is like fat and like just feeling fatigued and lazy. And like with social media, the debt is like you get addicted to it, you know? That's one that we haven't talked about much is social media. Because like people get addicted as fuck to social media. Like every 10 seconds they check their phone, especially girls, dude. Girls, like in some ways people get mad because like they hoe themselves out on Instagram, but like dude, if you were a girl and you could get like 1 million likes on Instagram and have guys always buying you shit and sending you money, like it'd be hard not to fucking do it. Like that shit would get addicting really fast, you know?
Yeah.
So you gotta guard yourself against social media too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the thing, right? what social media does. And again, social media can be a great tool. We're connecting through social media right now. The reason why someone is listening to this podcast is very likely through social media. So I'm always stressing that there's two sides of the spectrum, and we can use those things for the good. Mm-hmm. And social media, like the bad side, the dark side of it, can be that it quantifies your status. It basically you see other people's lives that are filtered through, well, the filters, and then you see very specific angles, specific situations and moments where they're happy and smiley and their life is amazing and everything is rainbows and unicorns, and you don't see and then people, because they want to be perceived in a favorable light, they want this validation as well, where you're more likely to click a like button on a picture that is more positive and mm-hmm. happy and fun. And then, but what it does, if you accumulate all those pictures and you look at them, and let's say you're like jerked off in the morning, like you woke up at like 11, you're like just jerked off and you're just checking your Instagram, and like all your friends are like traveling and making money and everything is fucking amazing. And then you can't help but compare your life, which is the worst of you, to the highlights of their life, which is the best of them, and that breeds a lot of depression and stuff. In a way, it could be used to motivate yourself, I guess, to do better. But this kind of motivation is not based on like good fundamentals of you wanting to be better for you, but it's based on like jealousy, right? So I'm not sure if that's a good foundation.
It can be a good starter, I think, for some guys.
Yeah, it can be a good kickstarter, but...
Yeah, like anger and jealousy can be good kickstarters, but to sustain it, you need to have like a more positive way of looking at it. And the thing is too, like, Dan Bilzerian or like whoever, like these guys like Lunatic Living that show themselves with like 100 girls on Instagram and like on yachts and stuff, they're never gonna like show you the picture of them like crying at 3 a.m. because they're like questioning their life, you know? Like they're never gonna post that shit on Instagram. So like you're comparing the shitty parts of your life to like the highlights of their life too. So you have to like really take it into consideration. Like you are actually seeing like the highlights of, like, it's a highlight reel. It's not their actual life, you know? And a lot of times too, these people are they're not even actually doing what they're saying. So like I know for a fact that some people on Instagram, what they'll do is they'll go onto a first class flight that they can barely afford, and they'll take with them like 20 different outfits. And so they'll take 20 different pictures of them wearing 20 different outfits so that they can slowly send pictures on Instagram like every few weeks. So you think they're traveling all the time, but it's just from one fucking time that they like, people are sneaky. So you got to keep in mind, like a lot of the time, like it's not what it seems like it is, you know, it's really not what it seems like it is. For real.
Oh man, that's so interesting. People do it like, and that's obviously they want to push a certain perception of themselves and then potentially sell you on that lie. And then it's all based on the outright lie. What was I gonna say? So there's lack of authenticity and in social media, and there's not. You know what's another interesting thing is that in movies, in social media like this, there's no like dead time where there's like nothing happening, like nothing interesting is going on. Like let's say you're like waiting in a queue, and it's like just like a couple minutes of just nothing interesting. And there's like a lot of moments like that in life. And when you have this comparison mentality with social media and even movies where like there's a lot of action and cool shit is happening, like sitcoms, like people are always funny, you may actually feel slightly depressed because you're comparing your life that has a lot of this kind of like nothing interesting sort of moments where you're like, you know, there's just nothing interesting. But that's like real life, right? There's going to be always moments. You can't really eliminate them. And and in social media they don't have that too. So
yeah, I mean the only reason that I use social media now is basically to connect with people. Because I think that's one really good thing about social media is you can connect with people. That and basically just like finding interesting news or like funny memes, right? So like I hardly ever like scroll through my Facebook feed or like Instagram feed like just to see like what people are doing, because that's never gonna make you happy. And one thing too is like like I was saying, like the strategic use of porn that I use, like you can apply that to other things too. So like the strategic use of junk food or social media. So I'm a hard gainer. I have a hard time bulking up because my metabolism is just really fucking fast. So I do a strategic use of junk food. If I need to get calories in at the end of the day to hit my macro goals, I'll eat junk food because it's just easy and quick and filled with calories. If I want to pick up more girls, I'll use the strategic use of social media and I'll add them on Snapchat or on Instagram instead of on my phone so they can see my life, right? So like that's the thing is like learning to eliminate the downsides of super stimuli, but using them in a positive way so that it's not using you, you're using it basically. It's like the key.
Yeah, man. That's the thing. That's the agenda. Like you're operating on your own agenda, your own intention. And then you can like use all those things to springboard yourself into the direction that you want to take. But again, for this to even be a possibility, you really need to have like your purpose figured out, why you're doing what you're doing. Your prefrontal cortex has to be pretty freaking strong to even have the willpower to pull it off. So yeah, just use it for your own benefit instead of you using it to a point where you just try to maximize pleasure, but in reality you're just making yourself miserable. So yeah, that's a pretty interesting revelation, right? That's we're not trying to basically say it's all evil, although I think personally that porn is all evil. Like I don't if you can do it like this, that's great. But I would not recommend, as you said, other people to do it that are still struggling with the addiction, because it's gonna basically gonna be a slippery slope. And so how can we like conclude this? What did we touch upon all the points, right? We got porn, we got food, we got social media and internet. Yeah, we talked about most of it.
Yeah, so just try to use it for your benefit and not have it use you.
Pretty much.
Basically.
Pretty much. And it's a very profound point. It sounds simple, but you can unpack it in a lot of ways. So that's it. Yeah. I guess anyone who would be listening to this podcast would be at least vaguely aware of those points, but we just wanted to hammer it home and make sure that, you stay clean with your porn and porn usage, and use all this sexual energy to actually better your life. Because that's another realization that I had, that we have this perception that as men we like kind of building up the sperm reservoirs and we have to like get rid of them, otherwise our balls gonna explode or something. Like that's just like a cow, right? The cow is like producing milk in her tits.
Yeah.
But if no one's gonna take care of the cow is gonna be messed up. So same kind of thing. I feel like this is how we feel about ourselves as well, and that's definitely not the case. And you can actually use that sexual energy that you believe you have to get rid of, and make sure and transmute it into something productive. Because at its core, it's creative energy. So that's once I made that switch, dude, it's so great. It's so good for your game. I know it doesn't seem like I mean, it is definitely quite a big revelation, but the way it can help you in so many ways, because all of a sudden, like your dependence on girls, even you're kind of always like trying to like get laid with them, and you feel like you may feel like you need to get sex from them, but in reality you don't really need. It's more like a want. So if it's a want, then all of a sudden the girl doesn't really have the power to control you.
She doesn't have power over you.
Yeah. Because you're like, well, if I'm not gonna get laid with her, I'm just gonna transmute this energy and use it for something else. And actually, I become like, do I actually want to give you my energy? As there's like, I treat it like a mana, like a wizard that
like
accumulated the mana.
Yeah.
And now I'm a little bit like, is she actually worth putting this energy? So I become much more of a person who's selecting rather than hoping that the girl will like me. So just so many benefits of this kind of mentality. So anyway, any thoughts on that?
Dude, absolutely. I mean, when you do nofap, that helps your game so much. I mean, first of all, because it gives you the motivation to even do game in the first place. Because if you don't have the motivation to do game, it's because you're jerking off all the time, probably. But when you can't look at porn or jerk off, then the only way to get that release is through actual real life fucking women. I know it comes as a shocker, guys, but so that motivates you to go out. And plus too, like, women seem so much more appealing and attractive. Like, I know that when I first started nofap, one of the things I would notice is, like, I started picking up more on like women's feminine energy. Like, I remember like when I did nofap, I would see girls and I was like, wow, like I never noticed, like she's really sexy. Like she, like the way that she moves, like the way that she talks, like it gives you more of an appreciation of real women. And also too, women like it when you do nofap because you have that buildup of creative energy. And like for example, like it sounds kind of weird, but like there's nothing that's more of a turn on for a girl than when you're talking to her and you're like aroused as you're talking to her. Because like there's this thing in game called the law of state transference, and it's whatever you feel, she'll feel too. So if you feel nervous, if you feel anxious, she's probably gonna feel that way too. But if you feel horny, and if you're talking to this girl and you're like, damn, like this girl's fucking hot, she's gonna feel that come off of you, and she'll be attracted to you. So
the desire,
helps your game in insane ways.
Desire that you have, that you're. It first, it validates her as the actual, a sexual being. then because you feel the desire towards her, it kind of like rubs off of you onto her, and then, well, it's much easier to have sex, and then you actually do want to have sex. So there's no amount of videos in the world, no amount of podcasts and theory that you can consume to make you more of a player or good with women or whatever your goals are, to even when you have a girlfriend and when you jerk off. Dude, I made this mistake at least twice where I let it slip, and I was in a relationship and I had a beautiful girlfriend. Beautiful, man. She was like at least a 9 and a 10 by any objective standard. And anywhere I would go, like, everyone would be like, whoa, fuck. Like, I would see all those dudes just like praying like animals on a hunt. And like, we would be in a club, and then she would be dancing, and she had like those really sexy moves when she would be dancing, sometimes like a stripper almost. I don't think she was like getting it to doing it to like get attention, but this was just like the authentic expression of her feminine energy. So she was just dancing very sexily, and there was always like the chode crystal forming around her, and like dudes just like looking just the beer pressed against their chest, and they're like sipping on it, like, and then I would like come into action, just kind of sweep her off, and get her out, because the tension was becoming too intense. So the thing is that even that sort of girl, and this is where it really cemented this reality for me, that I would slip with the porn usage and masturbation and stuff, even in this relationship. And what would happen, I would slowly become less and less attracted to her. And there was like never an amount of sex and things that we could do that I could be satisfied with. And eventually I would start like checking other girls. And then obviously she would be like, what the fuck? You know, she would like slowly get a little bit pissed off about that. But I was becoming like this lust-filled a guy who's always like looking for the next thing. And even though obviously you're always going to have that attraction to other women, I'm not saying that this is completely gone, but you just don't have it under control. It's just like this animal within you is controlling you. Like if you have masculinity, I really like this analogy where you can think of your masculine energy as this massive dog that is gonna either destroy your house if you let it, if it's just gonna shit on the carpet. It's gonna like tear down everything. Eat your curtains, and it just has a lot of energy. There's like a lot of potency in it. But if you train it, it's gonna make your life, like, it's gonna help you with so many things. I mean, it's just a powerful being, and then
it's gonna guard your house from intruders, keep enemies out.
Exactly. So it's gonna be like your best friend. And it's up to you to train that dog. And if you're basically porn usage, the unrestricted porn usage can be a way to train your inner dog to just like be this fucking lust-filled dude who's always trying to fuck girls, but it's not cool. It's like this dude who's like going on a hunt and looking for pussy, and girls are like turned off because they immediately know what's up. And they're like,
he's desperate.
Desperate and needy, right? So that's the difference.
Yeah, I like that analogy too, because like your masculinity, quote unquote, that masculine energy, there's so much talk, especially in the States, for me, because I'm in the States, of toxic masculinity, but like there's no talk of positive masculinity. And I mean, like you said, it's like you have those desires and that drive, and you can either let it turn in against you and fuck your life up, or you can channel it into something productive. And that's what you need to do, is you need to find those things in your life that you want to accomplish, you want to succeed, going to the gym, getting jacked, looking better, making money, getting a good girlfriend. Channel your energy into those things, and then everything will naturally happen so much easier, because the dog is on your side, the beast is on your side. You trained it.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. That's and the practice is to do it as we mentioned already. Having a purpose. Don't jerk off. And it seems like at the end of the day, the Christians and the religions had a point.
Yeah.
About this whole
For sure.
non-jerk off thing. It just, the thing is that they were never able to sell this point to you because they were always like, oh, this is a sin. That's why you're not supposed to.
They made you guilty instead of showing you what the good stuff that can happen.
Yeah.
They just try to make you guilty.
They just guilt trip you into like, into not doing it. And because like right now we're in this era of everything being deconstructed, all the meanings are being like, this is bullshit, like the religions are bullshit, and we throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah.
Is that the saying, right?
That's, exactly.
Yeah, so there was some merit to those things, but they were never really well articulated, those points. And they were always like a part of some ritual or dogma. And if you can kind of like take the dogma out of it, leave the like good points and maybe back them up with science and reasoning, then I mean, who wouldn't be on board with that? So masturbation is one of those things. Yeah, exactly.
I agree.
Cool. Anyway, Jon, where people can find you, where they can read more about you, and
you guys can check out my website at masculinedevelopment.com. And if you like what we're talking about, if you like what we're saying, you can check out my products too. So there's links to everything on my website, but if you want to go to get7strategies.com, you can check out my ebook, and it's got 7 strategies to make you more masculine, more aggressive, and just conquer life. So get7strategies.com. And if you want to learn the workout routine that I use, you can go to gettheperfectbody.com as well. But I've got hundreds of free articles on masculinedevelopment.com, so check them out. And
all
hope
right.
to see you guys soon.
Awesome, man. Thanks a lot for coming. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's been a good talk.